Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the U.S. presidential 2024 race and South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. All right, no, I'm going to say Noem. All right, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. All right, so here we go. All right, so I actually think I've been looking at so one, I didn't know Kristi Noem existed. One of the greatest things about this channel is they're just absolutely brilliant commenters who really help me understand the shape of the world. Like, I do my practical independent research, and often I get just brilliant commenters who are like, "You're not thinking about this, right?" And that's extreme. That's one of the. I think more and more I'm just thinking about my YouTube channel is incredibly valuable and important to me, and one of the things I've been thinking about lately is just like, what is this for? What is the return on investment I'm getting for doing this? And one of them is learning. I live a blessed life, which of course Vladimir Putin has put a significant dent in recently. But I really love to learn, and I'm not sure there's any better way to learn about a subject than to talk about it publicly, because there's just this immediate reaction of brilliant people. And there is I can't explain to you how powerful it is. If you get one single thing wrong, you're going to hear about it, right? So that's another thing is, this is teaching me to be right constantly, right? You cannot just spout wrong stuff, because you will get called out so fast when you publicly speak. So basically, really interesting, and I want to talk about why South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem could be a real threat to primary Donald Trump in 2024. Okay, so yeah, and you know what? Even if Trump disappears off the map, there's a good chance Trump will disappear off the map if he decides not to run for president. Trump is an extremely smart person. He is, and I think, as he's looking at this, as he saw Bernie Sanders have a heart attack, as he, as he's seeing the incredible weight of this job, right? Like, he's president, right? What benefit? He's going to be in every history book going forward, every single one, right? And he'll be, so what benefit does he get for running in his second term, right? So he may decide not to run, right? When you're like in your late 70s, health could be a concern. I'm going to promise you right now, I'm going to pray every week going forward that God preserves the health of President Donald Trump, right? Because I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm hoping somebody doesn't have good health, right? But the reality is, when we look at politics in the aggregate, we have to think, like, if you're in your late 70s, if somebody who's in their late 70s gets some kind of really significant health issue, or goes to be with the big man in the sky, ain't nobody surprised, right? It's not, you're like, well, your grandma was 78, so the reality is, I'm not wishing that, but I do political analysis, right? And when you do political analysis, you got to look at the facts on the ground. And the facts on the ground is he's like 76, 77 years old, and he led one of them Hollywood lifestyles, right? That had a lot of stuff that's not really healthy involved, right? If you look at President Donald Trump, he ain't doing laps at the gym, right? So it could be coming for him, right? And not, I'm not hoping for that, but I'm saying that is a fact on the ground, right? So the reality is, at any given point, Trump may be off the board, right? He may decide to take himself off the board, which would be very wise and would be a very, very sound, smart decision. Because the reality is, I think all of America is going, you know what? Having a president in their 80s is not working out great. Like, this is an experiment. By the way, President Joe Biden is an experiment. We're going to have an 80-year-old president, right? Can anybody right now say that experiment has a happy ending, like that this is turning out great for the 80-year-old and for us? Like, no. Okay, you can run an experiment, but you got to look at the data, right? This is not working out well for anybody, right? And here's the thing. A lot of people, and this is the other issue, there's a whole lot of that's misinformation now coming out to be just pure fact, right? breaking points was saying, hey, you couldn't even talk about Hunter Biden's laptop near the election. Now NYT is like just saying, yep, that happened. Like, wow, it's a real thing, right? So why could Kristi Noem be a very real, very tangible threat in 2024? Well, so first of all, she's got one big strike against her. She's a dyed-in-the-wool, basic politician. I think Americans generally despise basic politicians at this point. They do have, if you are a celebrity president, if you are a celebrity politician, like AOC, like Andrew Yang, right, like Tulsi Gabbard, Americans will kindly forget the politician part and just remember the celebrity part, right? But Kristi Noem is not a celebrity. Ain't nobody know her, just like DeSantis, right? Just a forgettable scrub on the politician side, right? So if you just look at her as being a politician, nobody wants another politician for America. It's just like, we're done with that, right? It's just, celebrities are better. Like, this is just, it's been proven. Trump did some terrible stuff, but boy, were things great when he was in, right? Like, and the price was, he delivered everything we wanted, but the price was too high. That's the problem. That's the problem, right? And the price was, hey, you now have a president who doesn't love minorities as much as he loves minority Americans as he loves non-minority. That is a horrific, terrible problem to have, and the price was too high. But I'm not pretending. Like, I long for the sweet-free, worry-free life of the Trump days, right? Like, I just don't long for Trump, right? I want what Trump delivered in an actually, good or neutral aligned person, right? Like, yeah, not an evil aligned person, which I kind of think that's what Trump is. Like, well, I know it, right? Like, anybody who says I lie routinely and you should lie too, they're evil aligned. That's my humble opinion, right? Like, okay. So here you go. So basically, why is Kristi Noem so important? Here's why, okay? I know Republicans. I was one for a long time. I ended my Republic days when President Obama got in. There was absolutely no way I was going to let the opportunity to put in the first American minority president to make that a reality rather than a myth, right? So I voted for Obama twice. I'm very proud of that. And that started me, and here's the issue, right? This is important. I want you guys to hear this, right? What do Republicans' values have all been thrown in the shredder, right? Because of President Donald Trump, right? But one thing that President Trump still looks at and that Republicans still care about is actions over words, right? And I think generally most Republicans do not like having this love for non-minority Americans over minority Americans. They do not like that label being slapped on them from Donald Trump, right? They don't want that to be true about themselves. And like, Republicans are literally the party that that American slaves were freed under, right? Like, and they want to remember that, right? They don't like this new we don't love minority Americans the way we love minority. Where they're terrified of it, right? And they want to fix it, right? But right now, how do they address that? Well, they know that that addressing the problem is all words. They keep saying, hey, we love minority Americans the way we love non-minority Americans. But nobody believes it because they're not doing it, right? And the Democrats have done it. They're the first party to put in a minority president. Like, they made it real. They made the actions count more than the words. And the Republicans are way behind on this. Way behind, right? And the reality is all they've ever done is elect white male presidents, which makes them look very, I love non-minorities more than minority Americans. And they realize the only way to prove that that's not true is to actually do the same thing Democrats do. Put an action up that matches the words you're saying, right? And they could do that with Kristi Noem, right? So actually, women are not a minority. I actually think they're like 51% of America, right? But in America, they count as a minority. And the reason why is they've been subjugated for so long and had so many things. Like we didn't let them vote until we didn't let women vote until 1920. Like, that's not cool, right? Like, we treated them like a minority, right? So even though women are not a minority in America, they function as a minority, right? And so that's the issue of where you actually land. And so Kristi Noem has presence. She's very smart. She's doing a great job with, she can communicate well. She has presence, right? And she doesn't have celebrity, but the one thing that could make her go beyond what we're seeing with, the one thing that could make her go beyond to actually essentially be an actual real candidate is this incredibly strong desire of the Republicans to stop being lip flappers and start being doers. That is a real Republican value. I'll say I don't think it's a Democrat value. Democrats are like, they're like, oh, just say whatever you want there to be reality to be. You don't need to deliver it. But Republicans are on the other side. They're like, hey, if we're saying that we actually care for all Americans equally, but we've never elected anyone but a white male, it's gun flapping, right? And Republicans, they do not like to gun flap, right? They want their actions to speak louder than words. And Kristi Noem can do that for them. It can make them look human again, right? And she's good. She's good. Like, from that perspective, if you want to get the job done and stop being a gun flapper and start being a doer, which Republicans definitely want to do, right? Then she could get that done for them, and that's why she's dangerous in that she could beat Trump, right? Dangerous in that if Trump drops off the board for a very good reason, he chooses not to run, which would be the most wise, sensible option, right? Then she becomes very dangerous. She becomes one of the most dangerous candidates on the board as far as getting the win done. That's my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.